in Centurion. Govan, just listening to you there, I guess the big question that begs to be answered is, what is Glynnis Breytenbach expected to tell the inquiry?
Yes, that is the big question, Bradan, and we're expecting more explosive testimony this week at the Mokgoro inquiry. Last week we heard from NPA prosecutor Jan Ferreira. He was one of the people that said that he believed Richard Mdluli, the former crime intelligence boss, should have been charged with fraud and corruption. And of course he co-authored a memorandum saying as much with prosecutor Glynnis Breytenbach. And that memorandum and Glynnis Breytenbach's reasons why she believes Richard Mdluli should have been charged are expected to feature prominently during her testimony here. But beyond that, we do know that Glynnis Breytenbach was a senior prosecutor in the NPA at the time when she left. She was still regional head of the specialized commercial crimes unit here in Gauteng when she left. And beyond that, she had extensive experience in the National Prosecuting Authority and worked very closely with Lawrence Mkhwebi and with Mokgoro Jiba in their positions as deputy NPA head and head of the specialized commercial crimes unit. So we're expecting some details into that relationship and to find out whether, while Glynnis Breytenbach was in the NPA, Mokgoro Jiba and Lawrence Mkhwebi acted ethically and acted in accordance with the NPA's prosecution's policy. That's what it's all about here, Bradan, whether or not they acted in accordance with the policy and whether they are fit to hold office. Of course, this inquiry is not meant to determine any criminal or civil culpability on the part of Mokgoro Jiba and Lawrence Mkhwebi. So most of the questions from these evidence leaders have been in that direction to determine whether or not the pair are fit to hold office. Both of them, of course, suspended right now. They were suspended by President Cyril Ramaphosa at the end of last year, and that's the reason for this inquiry. So Glynnis Breytenbach is expected to be one of the top witnesses here, and her name was actually mentioned by Jan Ferreira last week at several occasions. Jan Ferreira going into some details into how the case against Mdluli was constructed and the stages that it went through, and several times he would say, I believe Glynnis Breytenbach is the right person to come and answer questions about whether or not Jiba and Mkhwebi acted properly regarding that case. So that will probably be first on the agenda here, Pradan.
Yeah, and very interesting. I mean, we know, of course, that the relationship, professional relationship between Glynnis Breytenbach, Mokgoro Jiba and Lawrence Mkhwebi was strained. I mean, let alone the disagreements about some things that they needed to work on. And when one follows Glynnis Breytenbach, I think's testimony this morning, one will be wondering really how the NPA has really been paralyzed in terms of doing its law enforcement work.
We got a glimpse into that last week when we heard how foreign bribery cases were taken away from advocate Chris McAdam. So it does seem as if there was a substantial effect on the NPA's ability to do its work quickly and have justice being served at a proper pace during the time when Glynnis Breytenbach, Mokgoro Jiba and Lawrence Mkhwebi had that fallout. But we also know that Glynnis Breytenbach was at one point charged by the NPA, and this is just before she left the NPA. She was charged with defeating the ends of justice, accused of deleting sensitive stuff from the NPA's official laptop, of course later acquitted in court and decided to leave the authority, and now of course she's a member of parliament for the Democratic Alliance. But that doesn't take away from the high regard which she still held. Remember that when the search was on for the new NPA head, her name was one of the people that was suggested, and in fact she was invited to come and interview for the position. She later declined, saying that she admits that she's now a politician and it wouldn't be fair for her to interview for the position and possibly take it up. But we do know that there was a very public spat between Mokgoro Jiba and Glynnis Breytenbach and Lawrence Mkhwebi, and the exact extent to which this impacted on the paralysis of the NPA is also something that we're hoping to find out this week. Just a quick one to mention then, Braden, after Glynnis Breytenbach, another high-profile figure in the South African justice system, the former head of the KwaZulu-Natal Hawks, Johan Boysen, is expected to appear before this inquiry, and he's also expected to detail how racketeering charges were laid against him and later withdrawn after it emerged that Mokgoro Jiba had not considered all the evidence before her when she laid those charges. So it seems as if it'll be another tough week for Lawrence Mkhwebi and Mokgoro Jiba. Both of the witnesses expected this week are expected to to paint a damning picture of how the relationship with them soured while Glynnis Breytenbach was in the NPA and while Johan Boysen was head of the Hawks. But we're expected to get underway at around 10 o'clock, and Glynnis Breytenbach will be the first witness to take the stand. I
guess somebody else, Govin, who's going to be watching these proceedings very closely to learn of what not to do is Shamila Batoy, the new NPA head who's supposed to start this Friday in her new job, the 1st of February. A tough one ahead indeed. Thank you very much, Govin Whittles there at that Mokgoro inquiry.